Hey guys, Thingfishy here. So a while back, I made a very beginner-friendly guide to making a strength build in DS3. So now I'm returning to it to make a slightly sillier one for people who are a little more experienced. And I'm going to follow this by making a completely silly one. So in this run we're going to start off with a very good Titanite weapon, transition to a really cool Titanite scale mid-game option, then head into the DLCs semi-early to grab one of the best weapons Fromsoftware have ever made. So we've killed the giant crystal lizard in the starting area, grabbed the shard on the coffin. Now it's time to bully Gundyr with some fancy parrying. The default unarmed animation in DS3 is basically a buckler parry, so we'll be using that for all of our parrying needs. Now into Firelink and straight to the shop to buy a prism stone and the large leather shield. Up the stairs to the outside area to do the tree jump. Run right around the building to kill the little lizard for a twinkling titanite. Then back to the rafters to grab the Estus shard and drop the shield and the prism stone we just bought in the bird's nest to trade them for 2 more twinkling titanites. Through the invis wall to drop down for the Serpent Ring. Take the caveman approach to leveling, then head to the high wall. So there's only a couple of things to grab here. First, run around the top of the first building and jump down for the gold pine resin. Then past the dragon and the first Lothric knight and up to the roof for a titanite shard. Now straight through the rest of the area to grab the flag and down to Vought. Buff with the gold pine resin, get under him and get stuck in with 2-handed R1s. At the phase transition, dodge the 3 charges, then hit him with a charged R2 to the head on the breath attack for the stun. Run through the undead settlement, grabbing the Estus shard by the tree, then the charcoal pine resin in the next room. When you get to this area, head right as it's safer, dropping down the cliffs to grab a cheeky titanite shard. Now into the arrow graveyard. Our starting item, the young white branch, means that the giant is our friend and will kill all of the enemies for us. So this is completely safe.
Fuck's sake.
Past Treeballs' arena and up the stairs for the cliff underside grace for later. Now make your way through the rest of the area, all the way to the Road of Sacrifices. When you get to the archway here, keep left and double back up the hill for a titanite shard. After the grace, drop down following this route for 2 more titanite shards. All the way through to the Crucifixion Woods Grace. Right next to it, drop down behind the crab for the Grass Crest Shield for boosted stamina recovery when equipped. Run past the gank squad and cheese them off the ladder. And if you've forgotten to go offline, heading down to collect their loot, then going up will almost always coincide with the right time to cheese the invader. Level up to the Great Club the Exile just dropped, and head to Farron Keep to light the 3 fires, grabbing the remaining Titanites we need, and the Undead Bone Shard by the slugs. If you're not too familiar with this area, you can check out my previous video for a full route. When the gate is open, straight through to the Farron Keep perimeter grace. Continuing along the path will bring you to another giant crystal lizard. 3 charges to stagger, riposte followed by another charge to kill. For a nice early game ring, backtrack from the Road of Sacrifices and head up to Onion Knight. Run past the patrolling demon, into the building and all the way to the rooftop. Grab the blue dancer charm out of habit, then parkour down to the tower, jumping down right to the bottom for the Chloranthy Ring. Now back to Farron Keep. Up the ladder to the Old Wolf of Farron bonfire, killing the little lizard for a twinkly, and grabbing the ashes behind the invis wall. Then up the lift for the Erdtree avatar. Break his legs, then chain riposte him to death. The Great Club is so good for him though that ripostes aren't even necessary at this point. Then along the bridge to jump down the side and onto the lower section for 2 large Titanites from the 2 little lizards here. Now it's time for Crystal Sage. Sage is weak to everything except magic, so throw some juice on your bonk and hit her with 3 R1s per teleport for a very easy fight. In the area right after, drop down to the left as soon as you can for 2 more twinklies from the lizards. Run through the next area all the way to the cleansing chapel. Bonk the worshippers outside for an Estus shard. Then down into the river. Stay the fuck away from this thing and quit out as soon as you're past it. Just ahead you'll find another giant lizard. Now the large club is equipped with the DS3 equivalent of Braggart's Roar, giving you a monstrous charged R2 combo with a ton of hyper armor. More on that shortly. There's 2 more twinklies just up the alley, dropped by 2 more little lizards. Now into the Cathedral of the Deep. We'll be coming back here for Deacons later, so head in and open up the chapel shortcut. For now though, we're just here for the Lloyds Ring. So to get our weapon for the middle part of the run, we need to kill Abyss Watchers. And we have one of the best weapons in the game for this fight. For phase 1, sprint past the first Watcher and head right to the end of the arena and buff with the weapon art. If you keep in this little box by the exit, the other Watchers will not spawn, giving you a one-on-one fight in both phases. For the fight, all you need to do is get a backstab, then go for that charged combo for half of his health bar. And that's it. For a relatively early Watchers, it's over in 4 backstabs. Now for the catacombs. Head through as usual, grabbing the bone shard from the ball, then onto the bridge to break it and slide down towards the lake. The weapon we're going for is the Demon Greataxe, which you get by killing this demon, but we're not fighting him. Aggro the Mimic and let battle commence. Before we had all these super cool YouTube channels doing boss versus boss videos, this is all we had. Now, because the Greataxe is a soul weapon, we need to go and kill his treeness to unlock soul transposition. Buff up with charcoal as he aggroes, then burst the balls and hit the one on the foot. Leave the one on the hand for now and wait until he drops. At the bottom, get the one under his right thigh, then run around to the hand, then to the ones on the back. This is a super safe strat for this fight, and works well with a +1 starting axe too. In that case you need one extra hit on the hand to finish. Give the kiln to the little guy and grab the demon Greataxe. Now, this weapon doesn't get as much love as it should, in my opinion, as it's regularly rightly overshadowed by Yorm's machete and the Executioner's Greataxe. But this thing does really good damage. I'll be honest, the moveset is not as good as Vort's hammer, which you can get much earlier. But it's 2024, and if you're using Vort's hammer for anything other than killing Friede as the 5th boss in the game, that's just outrageously uncool. Use the demon Greataxe instead. So, semi-early Dancer. This was quite a good Dancer fight, but it doesn't have to be. We do plenty of damage with this weapon and our health is high enough to not get one shot. If you're playing it safe, go for rolling R1s and R2s. If you're playing it stylish, free aim your camera and smash her in the face for a stagger. So we did Dancer, as after she's dead we can get enough stones for a +4 Twinkly and a +4 Titanite scale weapon. So let's run round and grab those. First into the Consume King's Garden. Wrap around the area clockwise until you see the stairs up to the shortcut lift. There's a Titanite scale on the way up to it. Now into the castle, using the dagger to scoot you past any danger. Drop off to the left of the Dragon Bridge for 2 Twinklies by the Pus of Man. Then another from the Lizard on your way out. Before the dragons, down into the basement to flawlessly scooch past the Irithyll Knight's attacks with Bloodhound Step for a Twinkly and a scale. Now into the Ganky Building of Death to get stun-locked into a corner by 10 hollows. If in doubt, activate the Pus of Man to kill some of them for you. Then run out to grab a Twinkly by the wing. There's a scale on the balcony and another in the chest inside. Outside, activate the shortcut by Dragon Slayer armor, then up the ladder and across the rooftop for the Knight's Ring. Then run past the Crucible Knight for a quick quit out and 2 more scales in the chest. Finally, grab the last scale by the shortcut up to Prince's for a +4 Greataxe. Now we need a Titanite slab. So into everyone's favourite weird monologuing dragon with a bullshit undodgeable charge attack. Stay under him and hit him with R1s and R2s. The Greataxe moveset is actually pretty good for hitting the head, so you'll get some staggers too. For Gundyr, unequip the dagger so we can parry. Start off with the weapon art and go for maximum style points. Now into Darkfire Link for some parry practice, the Hornet Ring, the Coiled Sword fragment, and the good ending. So trading the Coiled Sword fragment with Snuggly the Crow will give you the base game's earliest Titanite slab. However, if you don't want to trade the Coiled Sword fragment yet, or you want to max out before Osiris and Gundyr, there's one you can get even earlier in Ariandel. Run through the DLC, grabbing all of the bonfires and opening all of the shortcuts. Once again using Bloodhound Step from the dagger for a completely safe. The only enemy you need to fight to access the entire DLC is Wilhelm, and you don't even have to fight him. Bait him out the front door, and once he's past these pillars, he'll be out of his aggro range. His AI will focus on getting him back into it rather than attacking you. Two-hand your shield and bash him towards the cliffs. When he's stuck down here, a single chargey will yeet him off. Now through the snowy mountain pass area to unlock Friede and make your way back to the chapel. Now to the depths of the painting, breaking the bridge and sliding down, parkouring down the branches to light the bonfire at the bottom. I had some spare souls, so I grabbed some fashion. So from this bonfire, past the crab and towards the rather ominous looking tree enemies. By following the path to its end, you'll find this lone one that drops the Snap Freeze miracle. As you kill it, you'll see a huge ladder materialise behind you. And up the two most underappreciated ladders in the Soul series, you'll find DS3's earliest Titanite slab. So now max out your weapon, because you're going to need it for where we're heading now.
Frightened Father, we have no need of thy flail. 'Tis only the flame quivering at misguided ash.
Fighting Friede early really isn't that scary with a strength build and a tiny bit of knowledge. Keep your distance from her, and there are two things you want to punish. First off, anytime she goes in this stance, bait the attack, walk backwards to avoid it, 2R1s. Next up, the disappearing attack. When she does it, watch the snow on the floor to figure out where she goes, then hit her with the weapon art. Then 2R1s. You won't get the second sometimes, but it's rarely dangerous to go for it anyway. The axe's weapon art scales with faith and int, so while we're only using it to stun here, it gets pretty ludicrous damage on higher level hybrid builds, so this weapon's a great one for New Game Plus. For Phase 2, just play it safe and patiently. Our damage is good enough to delete Ariandel fairly quickly, but you have to wait for the right moment. I play unlocked on this fight almost always to keep an eye on Friede, as she's still the main threat here. And now for the worst bit. Like Phase 1, Black Flame Friede isn't too bad if you stick to the strats we used earlier. We also have another punishable attack in the jump. Run under it, roll on impact, then go for a backstab. I can't stress enough how important patience is for Friede. If you take your time and stick to the strategy, early DLC runs won't bother you that much. If you rush and try and brute force this fight, she's one of the hardest fights in Fromsoftware history. Now to the second DLC to get our main weapon. Run through the Dreg Heap until you reach this chapel with the knights. Take a right as soon as you exit into this building, where, after some exploring, you'll find the Silver Serpent Ring +3. The best ring in the game for forgetting to use after every single fucking fight. Now to the Angel area. Jump off the cliff by the shack to kill the first one, and grab the bonfire by demons. Then walk back to the Earthen Peak Ruins bonfire and head right into the second area to grab the Ring of Favour. You can just spam roll or scoot yourself up the branch, but I quite like killing the second angel beforehand. So, demons. As soon as you land, run up and get stuck in on the orange one, keeping an eye out for the poison trail from the second. Our armour will prevent us from getting insta-poisoned, but you still have to be wary. With enough aggression, you'll get a stagger on the orange one before the red one aggroes. The most dangerous part of the fight is right here, where both of them are aggroed. Bide your time, keep your distance until only one is, then get stuck in. The demons, scary as they look, are just big vaults. As long as you're under them, you can spam away in relative safety. We want to kill the red one first, as the orange is an easier Phase 2 fight. As soon as one of them is dead, Phase 1 becomes pretty safe. If you're watching your embers, I tend to use mine when the dangerous part is over, so I don't waste them all getting ganked in the first 30 seconds. For the Orange Prince in Phase 2, it's not a bad fight at all. You always want to be sprinting towards him at maximum aggression. Doing so will mean that you can always roll the laser attack and have a great stagger opportunity during it. If you're at range from this attack, it's not quite as simple. Keep up the aggression and you'll get a few staggers along the way. Back to Firelink to level up and spend your spare coin on Green Blossom. Now to the place that we've been heading to all along, the Ringed City. Run through the city all the way to the swamp to light the inner streets bonfire. From here, round back past the staircase we just came down, up the ladder, and follow the path to the right towards the building. Then drop down the cliffs for Havel's Ring +3 for the best weight reduction in the game. Now we have to make our way further into the DLC and directly into the Path of Midir. For Bridge Midir, there's a very simple strat. Bait the fire breath by standing in front of him, then run to the side for a chargey and 2 R1s. Repeat for the stagger, take the riposte for the kill. And now we're here. I think everyone must remember fighting this Ringed Knight for the first time and thinking, please say he drops these swords, and please tell me you can do all this cool stuff with them. Well, where some other titles fail, DS3 delivers. But there's a problem. We need 6 more levels of dex to wield the swords, and we have 6 levels of faith and int that are now useless to us. I wish I could say I planned this, but I actually just forgot about the dex requirements. So back to the Cathedral of the Deep, and before Deacons, we're heading to Rosaria to respec. So, as you can see, the moveset of these swords is insane. With some of the easier bosses dead, head from Pontiff up to Anor Londo. Make your way through the archers section. It's very safe, I always do this without getting hit. And all the way up to Anor Londo for Slug Boy. I hate this boss so much, but this weapon is brilliant for getting it over as soon as possible. The Ringed Knight Paired Swords are one of the best designed weapons in FromSoft history. On par with Bloodborne weapons, and that's as high as praise gets. The two-handed L1 poke is a staple for boss fights, and the weapon R1 is insanely good for mobs of enemies. Now back to Lothric Castle for a good boss. The best thing about these swords is even in a game that feels so designed for straight sword and dagger builds, you can actually still do very clean fights with them if you want to, by just sticking to the rolling R1 in the safe gaps. However, if you want to play more recklessly and take a hit or two, you can absolutely bully even the most seemingly unbullyable bosses. Up through the Grand Archives to Princes. And the story is exactly the same. If you're going for a clean fight, the rolling L1 attack is basically a cheat code. Roll behind Lorien and tap L1 for an attack you can do safely after almost every combo. The fire attack is a good opportunity for the standard L1 for a bit more damage, and there's space for a lot more if you're being fancy. The animation of the L1, if you aim for the right side of him, can unintentionally duck a lot of the attacks. And as our best attack is one targeted at the back, phase 2 isn't much of an issue either. Now back to the Ring City for Midir. This isn't my first Dark Souls 3 run since Shadow of the Erdtree came out. However, in the script for the actual first one that was lost to the great computer malfunction of November, but that I will still make again in the future, I talked about how this fight feels in no way diminished, even after Midir was succeeded in the top Fromsoftware dragon fights by Bale. There is just something about an enemy as big as a block of flats that is so quick you have to roll like you're fighting an invader. That's just so terrifying and so satisfying. You don't have to fight Midir yet, as we're about to get a shit ton more souls. But you should, because god, this boss is good. If you're looking for Midir tips, the combo that always got me as a novice is this one where he fire breaths and then charges at you. This can actually be dodged by 2 rolls while locked on. Direction order 3 o'clock, 12 o'clock. This has never failed me. The second tip I'd give is fighting him with the camera unlocked, as it's easier, which you can see me not doing here because fighting him locked on is so much cooler. Play it slow, stay in front of him, and hit the head for the rest of it. Now for something really fun. And no, the real thing fishy isn't bound and gagged in a cupboard as I say that, because yes, I am heading to Halflight with a spring in my step. If you were around in the early days of the Ring City, you'll remember just how devastating these things were in PvP. Like Rivers of Blood in Elden Ring, they got a nerf pretty quick, but they are still insane against PvE humanoids. Honestly, New Game Plus Friede with these things is like fighting a drunk from down the pub, while you're light rolling in Havel armour with Jewel Smo's hammers. The biggest shame in making a typical guide like this with these swords is you don't see how powerful they are against normal mobs. Back before Elden Ring, one of my favourite runs was a very early Ring City, grab these, then play like a casual for the rest of the game fighting everything. You just feel like a god, which is rare in FromSoft games. Now to Archdragon Peak for the big guy. And between the amount of damage we're putting out at this point and the stagger that we get, the Wyvern doesn't stand a chance. For Nameless, rolling and standing L1s are your friend. You'll get a stagger at about half health. For the final 2 bosses, the story is the same as it was all the way back at Dragon Slayer Armor. You can have a really clean fight if you stick to rolling and quick attacks, but you can have so much more fun getting absolutely stuck in with everything in your arsenal. When using these swords, wait until you think the boss will stagger, make sure you're at maximum stamina, go in with the power stance L1, and if they stagger, follow through with the entire combo safely. It's so much fun. And finally, and my final favourite thing about the paired greatswords is the fact that you can play through the whole game thinking you're a monster, thinking you're unstoppable, and feeling like you actually do too much damage. And then Gale says, "No, you fucking don't," and it takes 2 minutes to get into phase 2. And that's fine. Because on any given day, if you hand me a controller and say I can fight any Fromsoftware boss with any Fromsoft weapon, Slave Knight Gale with the Ringed Knight Paired Greatswords would be top 5 without even thinking. The perfect mix of precision and silliness. And that's it. How to make what is, for my money, the coolest strength build in DS3. If you've enjoyed the video, give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more. As always, thanks for watching.